Hey everyone, thank you for joining me today. And we are going to be talking about really how to change your mindset when it comes to recruiting. You see, it's a buyer's market out there, right? Employees are looking for different things than they had in the past. And so what I want to do is share with you today are 7 keys that will help you to look at your recruitment process from a different angle, from a different way to help you really find that next superstar, the next person that's really aligned to your goals and your vision, and really help you to build your business for you. And also a quick reminder here is stick around to the end because I got a couple of free gifts that I want to share with everybody today. And I want to make sure that you can stick around and take advantage of those as well. So in the next 60 minutes or probably a little bit less, my purpose here is really it's going to show you some of the fastest and I like to say simplest ways to work smarter and not harder in your business. And we're going to be talking about how to help you improve your recruitment process. We're going to be talking about how to deal with toxic employees. Yep, we're going to be covering that a little bit. And really, most importantly, how to create those amazing teams that's going to build your business for you. So, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Steve Goranson. I've owned and operated the Jacksonville office here for, I guess, the past 18 years since December of 2004. And see, Action Coach, we actually have over 1,000 offices, and I think maybe somewhere between 70 or 80 different countries right now, or all around the world. And it's our strategies, our systems that we really are teaching here today that have been really proven and tested by business owners just like you all over the world. And my passion for doing this, I really found this out. I love sharing this story. Came from my dad. You see, my dad was a small business owner himself. He struggled in the day-to-day tasks of running his business. And, he was really great at what he did, but no one really taught him how to successfully run his business. And it was like really almost on my dad's deathbed, on the last week of his life, we started talking about what I've been doing in my business and how I've been helping different business owners around the Northeast Florida area. And then he started to talking to me. It's the first time he really opened up to me about his business. And I guess maybe I hit on a couple of pain points, and I was talking about some of my clients' struggles as well. And that's when I really knew why I was really so passionate about being a coach, because you see, if there would have been somebody there that would have been able to help my dad and teach him a better way, to help him to focus on the things that are really important instead of majoring in those minor things. I think, our lives, my family's life would have been so much better. See, he was really good at what he did, but no one ever really taught him how to run a business, and I think, that's really why I'm so really passionate about helping other people and other business owners, really, because I understand the struggles of that small entrepreneur, that small business, medium-sized business owner. So with that, I want to sort of talk about some basic success principles, because these are the foundation of everything that we do at Action Coach. Because the reason you're here is you want to become more successful. And obviously today you're looking for some strategies on recruitment, and especially this crazy employment environment out there. But if we want to have success, we really need to have clarity on what we want, because once we have that clarity, then we can go ahead and take some action. And hopefully today I'm going to be able to give you a little bit of clarity of what you need to do to be able to update your recruitment process, and some things that you can maybe not totally change it, but maybe tweak it to make it to the better, and be able to give you some specific takeaways and actions that you can really apply right away. That's my overall goal. So when it comes to business, we like teaching this as the cycle of business. And when you learn this, it's really the essence of what we're talking about today. Because usually the entrepreneur, the business owner, even a leader of a department and stuff like that, they get started, and then what happens is they get busy and they can't get everything done. So what is it that they do? They go ahead and they start hiring people to do all the things they can't get to. but they really, because they're so busy, they really don't have time to bring them on their team. And so they're sitting there putting out fires and stuff like that. And the person that really gets neglected off of this is the customer, right? So I want you to understand is your job as a business owner or a leader within your organization is your job is to serve your team. How do you serve your team? Is by providing them with vision and direction, giving them goals, and obviously competitive pay and benefits and the things, and really help them to become a good part of your organization, because then it's their role to serve the customers. How do they serve the customers? They serve the customers by becoming their problem solvers, helping them get what they want. Because then when they do that, then the customers are now, we turn them into raving fans, and they're supporting our business, right? And by the support of the business, by obviously paying their bills on time, by referring other business owners to us, and or other businesses to us, or other customers to us, and whatnot. And then it finally is the business can support us instead of us just supporting the business. And once we really understand that, that's going to be the key to help us understand how do we develop and attract the best in the industry to want to come to work for us. And if we want to become team rich, we have to understand what team is all about. Team is all about together, everyone is achieving more. We're all totally committed coming together. Everyone is working in the same direction. And when we're doing that, then everybody, we're working towards common goals, and we're able to achieve more than we could have on our own. And I think that's really the thing that we need to do. It is, how do we create this cohesive group where it's a team instead of a bunch of individuals in silos doing whatever they want? So it really comes down to is our attitude, our mindset, is what motivates us. And that's where I like to talk about is the power of the point. It's this part that's inside of us, is we're the point where we could either go above and become successful, or we go below. It's all about and really start being that energy vampire, right? And just sucking the energy out of everything. Because when we know, when then people fall below this line, what really happens is they're coming up with, and they're blaming others. They're coming up with excuses where they might be denying that they are the problem themselves, right? As we see it, there's always finger pointing, and then there's little scuttles going around, and feelings are hurt, and there's not a cohesive team. But what we want to do, and usually when we're down here, we're asking our employees, and we're talking about judgmental questions. Why are you doing this? What caused it? Instead of going in and asking learning questions. Because what happens is when we sit down and we have a team that is like below this point, and they're blaming others, coming up with excuses, this is what our team ends up looking like. It's, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. It's not my job, right? But we want a team that's going to sit down and be responsible for their actions, to be able to be accountable for the results that we want to give them, or we expect of them. But most importantly is take ownership of the opportunities that come our way. If we see something that's, we need to have the attitude, employees need to have the attitude of being an owner, is looking at the business from the owner's eye, not just from my little preview. Is, they see something that is not beneficial to the client, which means it's not going to be beneficial to the company. Then we need to sit down and sort of say, hey, how can we fix this? Who do we need to talk to? And sometimes just sort of step in, fix it, and then figure out what happened afterwards, right? Does that make sense? So it's really the power of the point, and we need to figure out is how do we become and move our team to become more responsible, accountable, and take ownership. So with that little preview and introduction to this stuff, what I want to get in and talk about are the 7 ways where recruitment is marketing. We need to, when we want to get the best, we need to put on our marketing hats and not necessarily our HR hats, right? Nothing against HR, but we have to think differently, right? And the whole idea is, how do we maximize both of them, right? So the first thing that I want to talk about is the first key is really about being proactive when it comes to recruiting, right? We need to be consistent out there. It's a ABR, always be recruiting. When it comes down to marketing, it's a lot of times when the economy goes bad, people want to cut back on marketing. And that's a mistake because they need to always be able to get their name out. Even though the market has shrunk, there are still people out there that want to buy your product and service. Well, the same thing here is that there's always people that those ideal candidates are always out there. And we want to make sure that we're sending out in messages and let them know that, hey, we are looking for, this is our ideal candidate that we're looking at. Because one of the biggest challenges that any business owner has is hiring that right person for the job. And that can be compounded really when an employee leaves without any notice, right? The business owner then goes into like scramble mode, and they're trying to just find any warm body just to fill the vacuum that was left by this departing employee. And many times these types of hires sort of really don't do well. So we sort of meet with some disastrous results, if you will. So how do we overcome this issue? And I like to talk about here is by using what I call is the bullpen concept. So let me illustrate this point. I love using sports analogy. So let's imagine it's the bottom of the seventh inning. The starting pitcher has a couple of men on base. And he may be starting to get tired, right? So what does the manager do? That's right. He goes and he calls down to the bullpen to get that relief pitcher starting to warm up. And the manager then goes out to the mound, gives the pep talk to the pitcher, goes back to the dugout. If the pitcher does well, great. The relief pitcher just sits back down and waits his chance. However, if the starting pitcher continues to struggle, the manager then comes out of the dugout and then replaces the starting pitcher with this new, fresh relief pitcher. Right. So how do we translate this nice little story into our business? Well, when you have an employee who is struggling or is unreliable, it puts an extra amount of burden on your business, and you train them, you coach them, you motivate them. I always say is you can't really motivate employees. Sometimes especially if you motivate an uneducated employee or untrained employee, is all you get is when you motivate an idiot, all you get is a motivated idiot, right? But they're not improving. However, without a stable of these potential candidates that's in your bullpen, you're at the mercy of their employment with you, right? Now, imagine, if you were continually interviewing for talent out there in your business, even if you didn't have a specific opening, you would then have a bullpen of potential future employees that you could then call on and quickly hire if that need arises. And that's why one of my favorite mottos here is ABR, always be recruiting. I'm going to give you a real life story here. So there was a commercial plumber. He was having time with unreliable employees who would, flake out, sort of disrupt his business. They knew they could get away with that because the business owner really had no option but to keep them on board in order to just get these jobs completed. And then we started to have a conversation with him and getting him to continually to interview for new plumbers, even though he didn't have a specific job opening. And so a few weeks later, one of his plumbers fails to show up. So we had him go into his bullpen, so to speak, and I made a few calls, and later he had that specific plumber replaced. And then the next couple of days, when the guy finally shows back up, expecting his job to still be there, to his shock, he was been replaced. And this really sent a message to the team that they can no longer get away with poor performance or absenteeism. And that actually fell off dramatically after we did this episode. So remember, you got to develop your bullpen, and ABR, always be recruiting. All right. So I think that's our first point. The second point that I wanted to go in and I want to talk about is we need to identify who our ideal employee looks like. When we're marketing, we know what our ideal customer is, and we're trying to market our message to that ideal. ideal customer, or in this case now employee. So we need to break them down into, what does an awesome employee look like? A basic one that could be that maybe has potential but doesn't live up to it, or the D stands for delete. So the thing that we're really trying to talk about is we really need to get very clear on what awesome looks like. That's what I said, it's just in business, it's important to know who those ideal clients are, and we need to know what our ideal employee would look like. But most importantly, not just overall, but for each position that we would be hiring in the business. Then we have to, think about it. And marketing is, we have to figure out, where do these A's and B's hang out? And when you think about it, they're hanging out with other A's and B's. So how can we take advantage of that? And, what do you need to do to maybe move a B employee and get them to be an A employee? See, D's are the easiest, right, to deal with, and they're more easier to deal with than the C's, because they're just, that they're bad. They were a bad hire from the beginning. C's actually sort of look good, but they become toxic and negatively affect your A and B players. And so as I want to really sit down and talk about it, is how do you deal with that, and take really, what do I mean by a toxic employee? Because, have you ever hired or promoted someone who really didn't live up to your expectations, right? That had was like the fox and the wolf in the sheep's clothing, if you will, right? And, so when we sit down, we need to take a look at, how do we fire toxic employees, and what's really the cost of keeping these toxic employees with us as it goes in? So how do we deal with these people? So think about it this way. What would you do if you had a staff member or employee that just doesn't fit your culture? They kind of make you feel like it maybe that they're, sort of like in my plumber story, that they're holding you hostage. You'd rather let them go, but you feel that you can't. Has that ever really even happened to you? Well, right now, I'm going to be sharing with you some strategies to help you identify who these people are, what you could actually do about it, and then help illuminate what the costs are, and that of them really staying in your business really is. So if you ever felt hostage by a challenging employee, and I don't necessarily mean that they're bad people, but they probably are just not either really good at what they do, or maybe they're just not a good fit for the culture of your company, or just not a good team player. They're sort of like our kids. They're always testing us and pushing our boundaries to see what they can get away with. They know that they got us because their skill level is really good. And so we just let them get away with it because they're good at what they do, even though they're toxic to everything else that they touch. So the challenge with these folks is, well, it's us. We don't want them to go because they're really good at what they do, but they're a challenge, and because they don't get along with anybody else. They have what I like to call the me mentality instead of the we mentality. Does that make sense? So let's break this down. Let you take a look at this. I want you to look at this grid that I have up on the screen. And it's a 2x2 grid. So on the bottom axis is our attitude, right? On the left side, it's not so good. On the right side is better, or is a good attitude. The vertical axis here is our skill levels, right? On the lower end, not so great level of skill. And then on the top is a greater skill. So the question is where do we put our employees, and how do we quantify, let's say, an A player in our organization? So, we like to think that they have these A players, they have a great attitude, and they also have great skill. So that's going to really go up they're going to go up on the top right-hand corner, right? That makes sense. So now where do we put the B's or the D players out there? These are the ones that, like I said before, they're probably our hiring mistakes, right? We probably shouldn't have let them go, or to really pursue success somewhere else. It's right. They're just not the right fit for us, right? We shouldn't have hired them in the first place. So it's pretty easy to see that they have, low skills, low attitude, or a poor attitude. And so they go down onto the bottom square. All right. See, that makes sense. So now it gets tricky. Where do we put B players? Some business owners, when I ask them, they say, hey, well, they have a good skill. They have to be good skills to be a B. And so we're going to put them in the top left, right? Does that make sense? But I want to counter with that. I want you to think about it this way. I say put them into the bottom right, right? Because they have a great attitude. They have some skills, but they haven't really developed all the skills they need to be an A player yet, right? Does that make sense? So now this leaves our C player in the top left. That means that they have great skill, but maybe their attitude isn't really where it needs to be. So the question is what happens if we keep a C player in our organization? And guess what? Most people, most business owners, most of us do that. Why? Because as I've been talking about before, they're difficult to get rid of because they have that good skill set, and we're afraid to let them go because, what's going to happen? Who's going to fill in for that void for their skill set when they're gone? So what happens is, imagine if you put an A player with a C player. The C player doesn't have that great of attitude, right? They're going to be pressing all the buttons. They're going to try to take advantage of every moment they can, a little bit here, a little bit there. They're going to be trying to be pushing the boundaries of what they can get away with. And while the C partner partnered with an A player, they're doing a great job. They have a great attitude. They're playing by all the rules. But then what happens? They see the C player not doing the same thing. They're getting pretty good results, but they're not playing by the same rule book, if you will, right? So now an A player has this prolonged exposure to that C player. And then that A player can now start morphing into that C player by moving to the left on this block right now. And that can get scary, right? So, when it comes down to the attitude of entitlement or pushing the boundaries and getting away with things, it really can be infectious. It can infect other people because they see other people getting away with doing less and less contribution, less teamwork, and they get away with it, right? So, and remember, we allow what we encourage. So if you let that C player continue like that, you have the possibility to have an A player affected negatively. Now, the thing is a person can really easily shift their attitude downward. It's a lot more difficult for to shift their attitude into in the positive direction, which is why really most C players don't ever want to get better in terms of attitude, because frankly, I don't think they have a problem. Maybe not, I don't know, but they still, probably are just not really a good fit for our organization. So we want to make sure that we don't keep our C players on, because they're going to impact our A players, which really is that's going to be bad. That's going to cost us a lot. Now, guess what happens? Let's go the other way. What happens if you have a C player that's coupled up with a B player? Well, that B player, remember, they have a great attitude, but they have not developed the skills that they need to really excel in their role. So what if they hang around with that C player? They're going to start having an attitude change as well, which means that player is not going to morph into a C because they don't have that skill level. They're going to be becoming a D player. Now we got a real problem. We have fewer B's and we have more D's, and now we're going to have a lot of turnover issues, productivity issues as well, and those fires start popping up all over the place. So are you guys experiencing this right now? Because we see this right now going on a lot of times. So conversely, if you have a B player that's now hanging around with an A player, another person that has a great attitude, they're probably going and really want to mentor this person possibly and help them out a little bit, so that B player wants to get better because they have a good attitude. So if you pair the B up to the A, the B is going to get better. But if we pair an A or a B with that C, or if they're exposed to them in the organization, their attitude is now going to shift to the negative, and that's where we begin to have real challenges. So I hope really that this tool has really been helpful in terms of being able to determine who we have on our team and who are our A, B, C players, right? The D's are easy to get rid of. They just boom, drop them off, right? But the point is if we want to attract the best players, the best people in our industries, they don't want to be around C players, right? They want to be around more A players. And so we need to develop more A players within our company as well. So, and then you have to realize this is as soon as you let go of that C player, because you finally realize that they're not a good fit, the A players, the B players, are going to probably come up to you and thank you so much because they've been exposed to this negativity, the poor attitude, and they're going to start wondering is what took you so long? And there's really a high cost to be able to do this. So the average cost of a bad hire is 30% of a 1-year salary. That's crazy, isn't it? Right. So what does that mean? So that means if you hire someone and their annual salary is $50,000, that's costing you, according to the U.S. Department of Labor, $15,000. We want to know where our profitability is going, right? So that's why it's really important to get this recruiting right and making sure that we reduce the amount of bad hires within our organization. So that's point number 2. So next one is now how do we find them, right? We need to understand what are their passions, where do they go, where do they hang out, we need to sort of think outside the box, right? What are some of, obviously getting referrals, who's the best place to refer A and B candidates are current A and B candidates, right? They get people to refer people that they like, they know, they trust, that they want to be part of this team, right? Obviously we can go in and using social media, but using social media and get creative, get current members on your team and cut a video of them talking about why it's so great to work for your organization, right? And get them to sell why they love working for you, and then obviously is networking, is let everybody that in your industry that this is what you're looking for, right? Looking at, pushing it out if you do company newsletters or whatever it is, looking at from PR, just, hey, we're growing. Let's, if you're the person that we're looking for, boom, 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 this is what you'll look like. Obviously put it on your website. And again, it's always be recruiting, always trying to go in there and find somebody that you could meet and get to know who they are. And sometimes it's like in the bullpen example that I talked about, it's, sometimes it's just, hey, let's go for lunch. And not to say, hey, I just wanted to meet you. I heard some really good things about you, boom. And I just want to let you know about our company. We don't have any openings right now, but I wanted to at least, get to know who you are and see if, if you're happy with where you're at, boom. And just have this conversation. Doesn't have to be an offer, doesn't need anything in there. But we need to really take a look at outside the box. I mean, sometimes if you're in the home pro area, is look at home association newsletters, right? And let them know who you're looking at. They might know people that might fit in. You never know who knows what, right? You could be advertising on the radio for that position. But talk about when you're promoting them is you got to promote about it is what does the successful candidate look, not what they do, but who they are. And this, if they describe this person and if this sounds like you, boom, we have the right opportunity for you. Hope that makes sense. So next one is understanding with them, right? Is what in it for me. We need to think from it as a marketer it's all about how can I solve the problem of my customer? Well, in this case, who the person that you're trying to sell are these candidates. So I got a question for you. Is if you were to restart your business today, would you want to rehire everyone? And that really includes yourself. Would you deserve to be rehired? That's a tough question, is it? So we need to start thinking about it as what's in it for me. What does each employee want from our business? And what happens is think about this. When you walk into a car, you turn on your radio station, and there's a station on that you don't want to listen to, boom, you're going to turn that channel off, right? Well, the same thing is with our advertising and recruitment ads, is we need to be having this message geared towards something that will gain their interest, right? So, and I can't really give you a lot of examples because it's every position is going to be so totally different. But the things that we need to, the big broad points that we need to remember here is, in order to attract great people, you have to know where you're taking your business. You've got to really enroll and inspire people in that vision and find people that want to help you reach that vision. So you have to really stop and think, is how clear is the vision of your business? Do you know, is your vision of what you need to get accomplished next day, or what you see this business to be like 5-10 years down the road, right? So if you're going to be able to attract and hire great people, you need a vision that's going to, again, it's going to enroll and inspire the best in there. So I want you to really stop and think, what would your business, or what should your business look like to be able to attract great people? What's the culture supposed to be about? What are the things that they're looking for? Is it training? We need to, and developing a culture which is defined by agreed upon, what I call success behaviors, is really the key to attracting our ideal candidates out there. If you think about it, our number one need as humans is meaningful relationships. And where we have the most amount of relationships outside of our family is where we work, right? A lot of times businesses talk about, hey, I want to have a family. I like to have a family atmosphere. Well, that's sort of good, but every family has that old creepy Uncle Ted, and we can't get rid of them, right? We have to always invite them to Thanksgiving. So, but the thing is that we could still have open and honest relationships, and with what we're trying to do. And so, what I do with my clients, and I just recently did this with a client, is what I call a team alignment day. And, what I've been working with this client for, 14, 15 years now. And every year, what's made their success so significant is every year we realign our team to that company's vision, the goals, and the culture that we've created, right? And then at the end of this whole day, I do a variety of different things to help align them. But the most magical part is when, at the end of the program, when I finish, and we do what I call as a wiffle. And a wiffle stands for what I feel like expressing, where everybody has an opportunity to share what's on their mind and how they're feeling at that moment, what they've learned. And everybody else, the basic rule is one person talks at a time, and all we can do is listen. And, because it's really a day about locking in the learnings for that day. And the last time we did this, I was amazed at how many people stood up and said that they used to hate getting up in the morning and going to work, and really avoiding it if possible, right? That sounds like some employees, that's why they show up late, they don't show up. But they're saying, but now I love this place. I love coming to work. I actually look forward to coming to work. And why? Because it makes them feel fulfilled, right? It helps them meet their personal goals of what they want to do and who they want to become. And this wasn't a big corporate client. This was a landscape and design and maintenance company with like 50 to 60 employees. And everybody is saying basically the same thing. And this, I have to really tell you, this didn't happen overnight, but over a period of time where they developed their culture and began to weed out those that didn't fit. And now it's like when the company brings in somebody that doesn't fit the team tells the management right away. And, and really they know what happens when they keep a toxic employee. So they're trying to get rid of them as soon as possible, because that ruins the atmosphere that they have, or what they really have worked to develop as a team. It's, again, because they understand that concept, everybody team together, everyone achieves more. So when we sit down and we're looking at this, is what are candidates looking when they're coming to when they're looking at your business, they see your job post, right? They're checking you out. Google says that, 50% adults said that, before they did business, they Googled them, right? Well, candidates are doing the same thing. of these people, they're saying that 50% found something in the search that made them decide not to do business with that company. And then 56 said they found something that solidified maybe their decision to do business. So we need to sit down and look at it as, what is our brand? What is our image out there? What are our clients saying? If you're trying to attract the best, they're going to look at your Google reviews. And if they're going to look at it and say complaints and this doesn't happen, this doesn't happen, you're not going to attract the best to want to work for you, right? So, but if they're saying that they're calling out your employees and saying how great they are and giving them all this pat on the back and all these great things, that's going to be something that will get the best in your industry to stand up and take notice. So I guess my question is what is your first impression? Right now, I believe it's probably 95% of all recruiters believe that this job market is going to remain and become even more competitive. So we need to have that competitive edge. We need to have our website not only designed to attract our customers, but also to something that will attract our new possible employees down the road itself. Does that make sense, everybody? So, all right, so let's move on to now number 5. So we need to create a sense of urgency, and we need to have an offer to act now, right? And we need to have an offer that's going to cause someone to make a decision now before they lose out. And you need to really understand your notice. What's the lifetime values of a customer, right? How much does it cost you to buy a customer? Or in this case, how much does it cost you to recruit a candidate, right? So if you know that it costs you X hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars to recruit a really good candidate, and those really good ones are going to stay with you for a long time, is it worth it to provide them with a signing bonus to get them to stick? And obviously there's things that they need to do to qualify for that bonus right up front, right? There's other things that we could do is create team referrals, right? And then we're both parties, the employee and the candidate that they bring in, if that guy stays for 90 days or so, both parties get incentive, right? So so your team members are going to push them to make a decision quicker. So we need to make offers that stand out from our competition, whether it's signing bonus, free training, free education, whatever it is. It could be benefits. We need to get them to make a decision quick. So that's something, but it's all part of sales. It's all part of marketing, but we need to see how can we adapt that into our recruitment process as well. So that leads me to number 6, where it's always talking about what is your recruitment process, right? Do you actually have a system of recruiting, or do you just wing it when, no, I need an employee. Okay, what do we do first, right? So we need to think about what systems are we using to improve the process to make sure to see we get what we want. Does your current system, does it make it easy for the right candidates to apply, or how does your recruitment system, do you have the one in place that's going to really design to help you find the right people instead of just any people? Are you using a shotgun approach or more of a sniper rifle when you're trying to do your recruitment ads? Right? Examples of using a recruitment system is, do you have a lot of these things of how your system has actually helped you in hiring the right people? Because if you don't have that, we need to go back. If you hire a couple of really good people, you need to take a look at what did you do differently there, or what made you attract that? What made that person be attractive to your company? And we need to use that in our marketing and some of our different things. So when there is an opening or a need for a new employee, the reason we have this system in place is we don't have to think, we just execute, right? And you can delegate that to people. Say, okay, we need to do plan A, right? Boom. And you have a lot of your ads created for most of your positions are right now, or at least a template that it's in place that you can now customize, right? What else do we have here? You know exactly where you're advertising and what type of person that you have to reach with each type of position. You know how you're going to set up the interviews. Are you going to be doing one-to-one in person, or are they on Zoom? Are you doing group interviews or those one-on-ones, right? Is your process designed to get the non-qualified candidates to deselect themselves. See, those are things that we need to do, because when we just interview people in like a cattle call, we're wasting not only their time, but really most importantly, we're wasting our time as well. So I want to talk to you about a simple 4-step process and where we talk about. And first, it's about generating leads. We need to have that process where when we're teaching our clients in there, there's a very specific pattern of the recruitment ads that we're talking about, because the ads are not about what we want the person to do, but what is the person like? So, if you're the plumber we're looking for, you'll be boom, 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 right? If this sounds like you, contact us, boom, at this thing. So one of the things that we do once we get people to start responding to our ads, we get them to call a number and we do some phone screening, right? And they call this number, they leave, and there's on this recorded message, it's like, hey, thank you for calling Action Coach and you're interested in boom in this position, right? And then we go in is to qualified for our interview process. Please let us know a little bit about yourself, what attracted you to this job post, and maybe please share a personal story of success. Because a lot of people are going to just hang up, boom, because they've never heard that before. They're not prepared for it. The best ones are going to think about it, and they're going to call you back, and you're going to hear the differences in their voice. You're going to be able to compare the different success stories. What is important to that person? What does success mean to them? And that's what you're trying to look at, right? And then the thing is that you need to, how many times have you done meetings and where people don't even show up? So, part of the selection process is getting people to get them motivated. And that's why one of the things that we like to do is a group interview, because if 1 or 2 people don't show up to the group interview, you still have other people there. But it's all part of the pre-selection process. And in this group interview, we have a very specific format that we teach our clients. And the first thing you need to do is, on the introduction, is go in, introduce yourself, and sell them on the vision of your business. Why would they want to work for you? What are you trying to build? What are you trying to help them? Then, maybe even have a team member come in and share their experience of why they like working for the company, right? So they could relate to somebody in there. Then introduce the position that you're hiring for, right? How will they recognize that they are doing a good job? Not necessarily all the individual things that they need to do, but when they do those things well, what is the expected outcome? And then there's about 3 to 5 basic questions that we just ask we go around the table and we add a room and we ask each of them to answer out loud. And then we have a little bit of a discussion. And so we sort of go around the room so nobody actually has to answer the start off being first, but we go through it. But this is the kicker. The final question that goes is, hey, based on what you heard here today, do you feel that you're the right fit for the company? So please share with us why you feel that you're the right fit for our company in this position. Now they have to stand out and they have to sell themselves. And this is where you're going to start seeing the cream come to the top. You're going to see people that have some leadership abilities, right? And you might not necessarily be looking for a leader, but you want somebody that can at least express themselves, or looking at what is really sincere, what's coming from their heart, I guess. So you could do these live, you could do these group interviews on Zoom. It makes it really easy for everybody. And, you could do it in the evening or when they're home and everybody is in there. So the next thing we want to look at is use some skill testing. Sometimes a lot of times people will do is typing tests, because you want to see how quickly they could do if they're going to be involved in an office type environment, is how quickly, even though typing isn't a main chore, but you don't want them pecking away because it's going to take some time, right? So there's free typing tests out there that you can give people and say that, hey, they need to be at least doing 30 words a minute, which isn't that fast, but it's in there. But really is, I guess the point I'm trying to make is how fast they type is going to show you how well they are at using a computer, because the more you use a computer, you're going to be able to type faster Obviously, it makes sense. So get them to feel, that in the end that they won this position instead of they got the position because they knew somebody, right? They have to work for this position. But once we go ahead and we do the group interview, we break them down into, we look at each candidate and we bring back the top 2, 3, 4, depending on how many candidates that we have out there. And again, the people that you don't hire that you bring back, these could be your bullpen people, right? That you have access to, them, you've vetted them to a certain degree, so, but the thing is what other things can we do at this point to see is, hey, are they the right fit? And there's typical different ways of hiring people. If we just strictly did interviewing, our success rate is about 14%, right? If we just do interviewing and then we do add in some reference checking, it increases to 26%. So basically 1 out of 4 candidates will be good, right? That's not really good odds, right? But if we then add a personality, different tests, there's DISC profile, there's a variety of different ones out there that you could use, then it raises it to 38%. If you add in some ability type testing, some skill type testing, it can go up to 54%. And if you go into another type of test, which is more like interest and what motivates them, now that raises our success rate to 68%. And then if you do that with job matching their skills and to that specific position, now it's like 3 out of 4 of our hires are going to be successful. How important is that, right? And so what we tend to use, and I like using it as Action Coach, are 2 primary ones. One is DISC and the other one is called motivators. So what the DISC does is it really helps us it tells us about observable behavior in emotions. It's how a person communicates, both verbally and non-verbally, right? And then motivators, what they tend to do is motivators, what really shows the values that drive those behaviors, emotions. So we go in and we'll take a little bit of look at it is, when we look at it and our DISC and our motivators are really aligned, that person tends to have very good personal synergy. But when we find that those our motivators and the DISCs are not aligned, then the person is experiencing some conflict and tension. And even though they could be doing a good job for you, the position drains them. So even though they go in, they show up, they do a really good job all day, they go home and they're totally exhausted. And that's going to be a short-term employee, or eventually they might get a bad attitude because, or their performance will drop because there's so much stress that's going on. So those are good things to know before we hire them, right? So let's take a look at some other things. So when we sit down and we look at the DISC, really the DISC is to help us understand and adapt our behavioral style to others. Once we understand what our DISC style is, now we know how to communicate and we can determine what the other person's DISC style is, their communication style is. We now can communicate to them in their style. And I think that really makes sense. At the end, I'm going to give you an opportunity where you can go ahead and get your own free DISC report itself and know what your DISC profile is. It's just a basic report. If you want to get, there's a whole really full detail that's 60 pages that really goes into depth of who you are and what we're trying to do. This will just give you what your score is, but it's really some good information. So we sit down, I want to get into a little bit of telling you a little bit about DISC. So when we look at our behavior, some people are more direct or indirect, right? There's other people that tend to be a little bit guarded with who they are and what they are. And then there's other people that are just more open, right? These are the 4 types of styles in there. So when we go into looking at the core DISC, there's the D that's for dominant. They tend to be guarded and direct. There's the I, which stands for influence. They're direct and open. And then you have people that are indirect, but they're also open, a little bit slower pace maybe. And they're the S, their steadiness. And then when we sit down and we look at the C's, which are guarded and very indirect, very into themselves, not into themselves, but to themselves, keep things close to the breast, if you will. Those are the C's, or the conscientious. So the D's are really good to really help you take charge and make decisions. Those are what the D's do. I's, they create teams. They love working with others. They're the life of the party. They love to go out, and they're always moving at a fast pace and always love to have doing things in groups and whatnot. The S, they strengthen teams, right? They don't like conflict. They minimize disruptions on the teams, if you will, right? They don't like a lot of change. And the C's are very good for quality results, avoid errors. These are the guys that dot their I's, cross their T's, right? So thinking a look at the different positions, what are the behaviors that are best for that position? So we sit down and we look at this. The D's and the I's tend to be more fast paced, and then we have the C's and the S's. They tend to be more of a gradual, slow pace in their behaviors. The S's and the I tend to be more people oriented. And then we have the C's and the D's, and those people tend to be a little bit more task oriented, if you will. So this gives you sort of an outline. And then once you sit there and you take the test, you'll find out where you are. And we're usually a combination of all these. It's just not one or the other. And that's where it makes it a little bit tricky in there to understand that. So, and then when it comes to the motivators, there's 7 areas that we sit down. Now, it's important to explore each of these motivators and what they mean. And it's really critical to remember they can't be separated. They can only be really distinguished. And through an understanding of the motivators, we can begin to see how to maximize performance by achieving stronger alignment between our motivators, our choices, and our actions. And a great example that I use is in here. And none of these are either good or bad. You're either going to be on a low end or a high end, and they're going to be a different motivation level. So let's say on economic, you have a high return on your investment, right? And let's say the person's other one that influences the most is altruistic. So on the economic, let's say they have a low economic drive, but they have a high altruistic drive. They want to go out and help others and really sometimes at the expense of themselves. And this person might not make the best salesperson, right? Because they're going to have a hard time closing. They're going to be emphasizing too much with these people. Oh, I don't have the money to spend, and they're always looking for how can I cut them a deal, because they're not looking for that really good return on the investment. So these are things how we match these of what the top motivators are for each person to really help them understand that. So finally, I want to end up with number 7 is we need to keep our current employees engaged, right? Because 68% of people leave because of perceived indifference. They don't feel that they're providing value, that showing up doesn't make a difference. And that was the difference with one client is they hated working where they are, but they love where they're working at now because they feel that the work that they do is important and they understand what role they play within the organization. And it doesn't happen overnight. You have to sit back and you have to define it. And it really has to come. I can help guide you through that to develop that, but it also actually has to happen from the ground up, if you will, if that makes sense. Right? Because this is happening to staffs as people are leaving because of they're jumping ship because of $1 here and $1 there. I mean, this one client actually, they have clients that actually come back, or candidates come back to them, employees come back because they realize they hated where they were working and they finally realized what they actually had at working at this organization, right? So remember, people don't leave companies, they actually leave bad managers. So if we want to attract the best in our industry, we need to make sure that we internally will have a business that they would want to work for. We have bosses that they want to work for, that they can grow with, that'll help them be the best that they can be. Hope that makes sense there. So let's say we do a quick review. So number 1 was be proactive. We have to be consistent and really the ABR, always be recruiting, develop that bullpen so people that you can go to right away if when you're in a crunch and you need to hire, you don't have to start that recruiting process from scratch. We need to identify our ideal employee and understand what the cost of those C or those toxic players are to the team, right? Because we can't attract an ideal employee and then waste all this money attracting them and then have that C player really switch them over, right? The next one is how do we find them? We need to understand their passions. We need to think outside the box. Where do these people live, exist, and whatnot, and how can we market our message to them there? And then it's the what's in it for me, with him, if you want to call it. But why would the best in the industry want to work for you? You need to understand. They need to understand what they get. Why would they want to come and work for your company? Next thing we need to do is we need to create urgency. We need to give incentives to your current team members, maybe signing bonuses to help get them to speed up this process to get people making decisions. One, we need to create a recruitment system, because we can't wing recruitment. If we do, you're going to get the people you've always got, right? And sometimes you're going to hit it, sometimes you're going to be lucky, and sometimes you won't, but you won't consistently be getting the best in your industry. And we need to create a process where they deselect themselves. Plus, we need to use profile tools and to learn really what's under the hood, what really makes these people tick before we hire them, and not after they hire them, after we hire them, where it could be too late, if you will. So, or cost us a lot of money. So next one is we need to keep our current team engaged, because 68% of people leave because of perceived indifference. So we don't want to go ahead and spend all this money on attracting these great people and not have them engaged in our vision and our mission, and they're going to leave to go for someplace else where they feel wanted. And then, and remind them of the role really that they play on the team. And we're just going to say, remember, people don't leave companies, they leave bad managers. So hopefully through the time that we spent here, you were able to get a couple of really good ideas and strategies and an overview of what you need to do to think differently about your recruiting, because recruiting doesn't start when somebody leaves. It's got to start before that. We have to be proactive in our recruiting process. So at this point, there's really two directions you can really go, right? You could say, hey, Steve, I'm really excited. Thanks for everything that you've shown me here today. I'm going to go out. I'm going to put a lot of these strategies and build my team on your own. This was great information. I just appreciate you. Is tell people what you learned here and let them know that they can get more from you as well. Or you might say, hey, I'm really interested in getting really massive results fast, right? What do I need to do? How can I apply this specifically to my business? Because we talked in a lot of very generalities, because we have lots of different businesses here. You might be asking, would this even work in my business? So what's really the next step? How can maybe I guide you to implement this into your business? Well, the thing that I want to talk about is it's all about, what is the options? What can you do at this point? And what I want to offer you is really invite you to set up really a free strategy session with me. And the purpose of this is about a 1.5 hour Zoom call for take a look at what you learned here in today's workshop and guide you to focus on how can you apply this into your business specifically. What are the specific things you need to do? And you're also going to really discover the power of coaching and the clarity that you're going to get from this Zoom call. So think about it this way: if the old strategies are not effective as they used to be, you're looking for new, fresh ideas, this could be a great opportunity for you. Or might you just be wondering, hey, if coaching could help you in your business, this is a great opportunity to find out as well. So go ahead right now, book your call. Just go to strategy-session.com. Go ahead, you'll get access to my calendar and go ahead and book that time. Again, strategy-session.com. I only have a limited spots that I can be doing this. I'm taking a week off in the month of April. So my schedule, I know, is going to fill up pretty quick. So go ahead and do that. So I really appreciate everybody coming here today. And really, I hope that you were able to leave with 1, 2, or 3 different ideas that you can now apply to your business right away. And then I also promised you that free disc report. Just really go to my website at stevegoranson.actioncoach.com, and then just do at the end, just go /free-disc-profile. It'll take you, just go ahead and sign in, and it'll take you through the process. You'll be answering a bunch of questions. It'll take you maybe somewhere between 10, 15 minutes to take the DISC assessment. And then you'll immediately get like a 5-page summary report of what your DISC profile is, what it means. And then if you're interested in getting the full report, you can go, there'll be some opportunity to do that. Or if you want to talk about how we can get your whole team to take this assessment and use it as part of your recruitment, let's go ahead and set that strategy session up with me. So hopefully you had some really good information. I really appreciate your time. Have a great day.